Hi, I'm Sahana Dharmapuri, the director of Our Secure Future. Welcome to Shift, Ask a Different Question. What do car accidents and war have to do with each other? Bad decisions? Bad decisions about women? How many of you know that women are 73% more likely to die in car crashes than men? It's been this way for decades. Perhaps women are worse drivers? Maybe they drive more so they get into more accidents? No. The tests we count on to make sure you'll drive and survive a car crash, they're done with these guys. They represent the average human. We have known this for 10 years, but today, not much has changed. Women are still more likely to die in car accidents because we still design cars for men. What if I told you war was the same way? Meet Sally Jones, known as the White Widow of ISIS. Jones became the leader of a specialist female ISIS wing not long after she traveled to Syria in 2013. Jones was high on the kill list for both the Americans and British security forces and was eventually killed. But she wasn't alone. According to the Global Extremism Monitor, women-led attacks are on the rise. The Monitor documented 100 distinct suicide attacks in 2017. That's 11% of all attempted suicide attacks that year. By comparison, women serve in less than 2% of combat roles in the military. What motivates a woman to choose to join violent political groups? We don't ask that question enough. Terrorists are better at recruiting women than we are. Women are the strategic blind spot when it comes to our security decisions. Certainly, our goal is to have the best security strategies we can have. The point is not that these women are not a priority, it is that our strategies, whether Sally Jones or the wives of ISIS fighters, don't consider them at all. It's not that we don't think women will fight or drive cars. We simply assume that the strategy we have for one half of the population works for the other half. In both cases, our failure to shift the way we develop our approaches is a deadly decision. We talked about war. What about peace? Would bringing more women into the conversation change outcomes? These women thought so, and were so instrumental in bringing peace to Northern Ireland. But is that a fluke? Would shifting our practice to make peace negotiations more equal actually change anything? Maybe we're taking women for granted. What if this guy did that? Imagine not taking the purchasing power of women into account during the 2020 pandemic. 74% of women identified themselves as the primary shoppers for their household. Imagine if Jeff Bezos didn't prioritize women. The truth is, most businesses don't. Forbes identifies gender as one of businesses' top blind spots. After all, it was only in 1974 that women could get a credit card without having it co-signed by a man. And today, women still pay a higher interest rate and make less income. In the US, women were granted the same access to credit as men, but even with parity, it's still not fair. What does the lack of equality and fairness mean for development outcomes? Well, we have examples from around the world. For instance, in an education project in West Africa, it was a major achievement just to get as many girls into the classroom as boys. That's parity, right? Success. Not quite. There was a problem. The girls' test scores were far lower than the boys. The numbers were not telling a positive story. To find out what was going on, researchers took the bold step of asking different questions, talking with the girls, the boys, and the teachers, and then learned some things. First, while there were more students in the classroom, there were the same number of chairs and desks, so the boys sat on the floor. Second, when students answered questions, the teacher had them stand up, not raise their hands. Well, the girls were wearing skirts. Since the boys were sitting on the floor, the girls did not want to stand up because the boys were looking under their skirts. Low classroom participation meant low test scores. These girls were having a completely different experience than boys in the exact same environment. We assumed just getting girls into the classroom would change things, but that wasn't enough. We had to change how we made even basic decisions about uniforms and desks to get the equal outcomes we were looking for. Investing money without challenging our assumptions about women and girls isn't good enough. We need to shift our decision-making to achieve better outcomes for everyone. And research shows that when women are able to participate in creating a more peaceful society, such as participating in peace negotiations, peacekeeping, or countering violent extremism, the solutions last longer and they work better. But we are so bad at including women that we literally needed a UN resolution to make it happen. 20 years ago, the world made the bold step to state that the security of the individual is as important as the security of the state. UN Security Council Resolution 1325, a document as critical to security as the Geneva Conventions. It called upon all states not just to shift their belief, but to change their practice. Now it is law. It is called the Women, Peace and Security Act of 2017 in the United States, and women must be taken into account in defining war, peace, and security. Researchers analyzed nearly 500 conflicts from every corner of the globe and security outcomes since the law was passed. The results were pretty definitive. Peace agreements were 35% more likely to last when women participated fully. In contrast, states with a large gender gap in governance were riddled with corruption, disease, violence, and higher mortality rates. Compare that to states where more women are included. They enjoy higher trust in government, lower infant mortality rates, and a greater focus on social welfare. Then we took a different approach. We asked women. We asked hundreds of women for more than 63 countries about what they experienced in war and peace. The stories are universal. The sentiment is the same. This is not a local issue. It is a global phenomenon shared by 50% of the world. We know what the problem is and we know how to fix it. And we have overwhelming proof that this means shifting the way we do business by considering women. What does it look like when we do that? A colleague of mine tells the story of creating a peace plan in Angola. Part of the plan was to clear the mines off the roads so communities could come together after years of armed conflict. The roads were cleared, but these small farming villages didn't recover. Why? It failed. Decisions were made by people in the capital and international experts. No one had talked to the rural farmers, the majority of whom were women. They cleared the mines from the roads, but the mines in the fields were still there. Communities could not know peace because the farmers did not feel secure. No agriculture meant the country couldn't move forward on the path to reconstruction. This one was simple. It wasn't a matter of missing it. It was a matter of priorities. In broad strategic terms, it's actually doable. It simply requires a shift in the way decisions are made. Seems simple, right? Yet we failed to do it. Including women is still an afterthought, and it's still a strategic blind spot, despite all evidence that suggests that we will get better results. Women still have to fight just to be heard. Imagine what we could do if the energy they spend to bang on the door could be used to create stability. The good news is the law is on our side. In 2017, the U.S. Congress passed the first ever law that mandated that we could include women in our foreign policy at every level: strategic objectives, policy priorities, and program design. All relevant agencies are now required to implement a gender perspective in every program. You leave knowing 3 things. 1, we have a strategic blind spot. 2, we have a mandate and a legal framework to fix it. And 3, we know what works to create better outcomes. We can't assume that it's happening, just like we can't assume women will be safe in cars. This changes with you. Ask women. It begins in program design and project management. It starts at the panel discussion and around the conference table. You can make better decisions and achieve better outcomes for everyone.